전 세계가 흔들리는 불확실성의 시대, 오늘은 투자의 대가 짐 로저스 회장님을 모셨습니다. 글로벌 시장의 흐름부터 향후 전략까지 지금 바로 만나보겠습니다. So the first question would be, how do you access today's global market landscape and the major risk should we watch in the coming years?
That's an extremely good question. Well, the United States stock market has been going up since 2008. That's the longest in American history without a problem. Never before in American history have we had such a long period of good times. Now, maybe it's going to go on forever. Mr. Trump says, don't worry, everything is okay. That makes me worry. I suspect that we are coming to the end of the good times in the stock markets in America and therefore in much of the world. So I'm worried. Maybe you should be worried too.
The first round of US-China trade talks ended in a positive note. Do you believe that the Trump tariff strategy could reshape the global order?
Well, if Mr. Trump does some of the things he says, it's going to be good for America and good for the world. The situation with Mr. Trump is he says a lot of things and then changes his mind. So Mr. Trump doesn't really know exactly what he thinks. His mood swings and he changes. I mean, somebody like Margaret Thatcher, who you may remember was Prime Minister of Britain, we more or less knew how she thought and what she would act, how she would act. My reading of Mr. Trump is he doesn't know himself what he thinks. He depends on how he feels, what he sees on the television, and then he acts. But that can always change quickly. And that's a problem for me as an investor.
And regarding the Trump issue, Trump is pushing for higher tariff to address the US national debt. Can tariff realistically help the debt?
Well, the whole world needs to understand that the U.S. debt is a gigantic problem facing everybody. Whether it is a problem today or not is not so important because it is going to be a huge problem in the future. Anybody who has children should be extremely worried because those children are going to have big, big problems with the U.S. national debt. No country in world history has ever been as deep in debt as the U.S. is, and the debt gets higher every day. In Washington, they seem to say, don't worry. Well, I worry. I worry a lot. And I'm afraid that my children are going to have huge, huge problems in their lifetime because of the national debt. You may remember that England went through this a few decades ago, and it was a horrible disaster, nightmare for England. I'm afraid the younger U.S. people are going to have the same problem. The debt is the highest in world history. The debt is going higher every day. The numbers just don't work. We cannot pay the debt unless something dramatic happens, and something dramatic could be a disaster, or it could be some good policies. I'm afraid the way things are going, it looks like a disaster sometime in the future. Be worried.
When making investment decisions, which factor do you weigh the most? Macroeconomic indicators, company fundamentals, or market sentiments?
Well, market sentiment is extremely important because market sentiment can make things go bad even when a company or a country is getting better. So you have to consider that. But the fundamentals, a fundamental situation, is a company getting deeper in debt and increasing sales, or is it suffering? You have to understand the fundamentals or you will never make any money. I wish it were easy. I wish we didn't have to worry about things like facts and situation, but we do have to worry about facts.
The US stock market is showing signs of a little recovery. Are there any industries or assets you find especially promising now that you would like to buy?
Well, I am looking. Yes, I am looking, but I have not found a lot yet. Maybe I'm lazy. Maybe that's the problem.
No.
But I do not know many countries Uzbekistan I mentioned, yes. But most countries in the world are continuing to add debt. Many countries have had good times recently because of the U.S. and other countries. I mean, when everybody's happy, I usually get worried.
What's your assessment of China's domestic consumption market and its innovation in fields like AI and electric vehicles?
We all know that electric vehicles are the wave of the future. Many countries are developing them then. And from what I read, it's cheaper and more efficient, and it's better for all of us. I mean, new changes come along throughout history and make things better. From what I can read, and I'm not very technical, but I'm not a mechanic, but what I can read is electric vehicles are cheaper and more efficient and are going to make life better for all of us.
What are the regulatory tightening and ongoing US-China tensions impacting Chinese market? What keeps you optimistic about China?
China is the only country in history that has had several periods of being great. Rome was great once. Egypt was great once. Britain was great once. But China's been great 3 or 4 times. It's also collapsed 3 or 4 times. It's been a disaster 3 or 4 times. And from what I can read, history is coming together again. They work hard. They educate their children. They discipline their children. They're trying to develop their resources, and they seem to be doing it well. Will it last forever? No, nothing has lasted forever. But China seems to be on the rise again.
Have you ever been tempted to sell your gold or silver holdings for your profit? Because I know you've never sold them.
Well, you're a smart woman. You're educated woman. No, I have bought my first gold in 1971, and I still own it. I have never sold any of my gold and silver. I don't know, but throughout history, gold and silver have held their value and have been a way to protect yourself. Does it always work? I don't know. We'll find out. But I do know from what I have read, gold and silver have always held their value, you know, whether it's in Korea or Uzbekistan or Afghanistan, wherever it is. Gold and silver have always been recognized. So I have gold and silver. Everybody should have some gold and silver under the bed.
You grew up in a small town in Alabama and went on to study at Yale before starting your career on Wall Street. How did your passion for finance begin, and was it driven by a deeper desire to understand the world?
Well, it was partly an accident. I knew nothing about finance. I thought stocks and bonds were the same thing. I didn't know anything. But I had a summer job by accident on Wall Street, and I fell in love. This was a place that would pay me to understand what was going on in the world and make proper judgments. Well, I loved what was happening in the world. I would do it all day if I could. And so suddenly I found a place that would pay me to do what I loved. And so I didn't go to law school or medical school or business school or anything. I went to Wall Street as soon as I could and started studying and learning about more current affairs, what was happening in the world, and figuring out ways to make investments, and loved it. Well, I mean, we all want easy money. Please, yes, we all want free lunch. I want a free lunch too, we all do. You can hand out easy money or free money, but unless the situation is sound underneath, it will lead to problems down the road.
불확실한 시대에 중요한 투자 인사이트를 지금 로저스 회장님과 함께 나눠봤습니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.